I want to tell you about the moment I realized my boyfriend might actually believe he's smarter than science. He's 20 years old, a grown adult, and last week I had to sit him down and explain from scratch that his pet turtle is a reptile, not a mammal, a reptile. He looked at me like I just said something insane. So I kept going. I told him that reptiles are cold-blooded, meaning their bodies cannot regulate their own temperature internally. They depend on their environment for heat. He nodded slowly, the way people do when they're about to fight you. Then he said, and I need you to really hear this, he said the turtle just goes into its shell when it gets cold, that the shell keeps it warm, like a little jacket. I tried to stay calm. I explained that hiding inside a shell does not generate body heat. That's not how biology works. That's not how anything works. He stared at me for a long second, and then he said, completely serious, that I was the one who was confused. Me. I was the confused one. I genuinely did not know whether to laugh or cry. So I'm asking you, am I wrong for being a little terrified right now? I've been doing my job from home for 8 years. 8 years. Not because of the pandemic, long before any of that. The company knew, HR knew, my old boss knew. It was all documented, all official. Arizona became my home, my life, my routine. And honestly, I forgot it was even unusual. Then the pandemic hit, and eventually my old boss left. New guy came in, and I figured someone would loop him in, right? Someone would mention that I'm not exactly local. Nobody did. For months, everything was fine. He never asked, I never brought it up. Why would I? It was in my file. Then one morning, the company drops a big announcement. Return to office procedures. I read it, figured it didn't apply to me, and moved on with my day. 2 hours later, I get a message from my new boss. He sounded confused at first, then concerned, then very, very specific. He wants to know when I'm planning to relocate back to Maryland. I stare at my screen in my Arizona apartment, coffee in hand, desert sun pouring through the window. I write back and explain that I've been remote for 8 years and that I live in Arizona. His response? Move back to Maryland or start looking for another job. 8 years of good work. Not one complaint. And just like that, it could all be over because nobody bothered to read my file. So tell me, would you move or walk away? Every single month, I drive my grandpa to his doctor's appointment. Same routine every time. I sit in the waiting room, scroll on my phone, wait for him to come back out. And here's the thing, his doctor is just as old as he is. We're talking ancient. I've never once spoken to this man in my entire life. Not a single word. So today, we pull up, we go through the usual routine. Except this time, something is different. My grandpa stops at the office door, turns around, looks at me, and actually waves me inside. My heart does this little flutter. Like, wait, I finally get to meet this legendary doctor? I'm kind of touched, honestly. Grandpa never does this. So I walk in. I straighten up. I'm ready to make a good first impression. I step through that door. The doctor looks up from his desk, looks me dead in the eyes. And before I can even open my mouth, before I can say hello, nice to meet you, anything, he points at me and goes, stone cold serious. He's obese. That's it. That's the greeting. No handshake. No ismite. Just a medical diagnosis hurled at me like a football. I stood there, completely frozen, not knowing whether to laugh or walk right back out. My grandpa, he just nodded like this was totally normal. So, I need to know, has a complete stranger ever just roasted you with zero warning? I was already having the worst day of my life before the lights even went out. I'm talking full-on emergency situation, the kind where you sprint to the nearest restroom and pray nobody's in there. I made it. Barely. And honestly, for a second, I thought I was in the clear. Everything was going fine. Until it wasn't. The bathroom had one of those timed sensor lights. You know the ones. They're supposed to be smart. Energy-saving. Convenient. Yeah, not today. I was still stuck in my stall when the lights clicked off. Every single one. Complete darkness. I'm talking can't see your own hand darkness. And here's the thing. I couldn't just get up and wave my arms to trigger the sensor. I was absolutely not in a position to move. Not yet. So I just sat there. In the dark, at work, listening to the hum of the ventilation. Waiting. 1 minute passed, then 5, then 10. I started bargaining with the universe. I started questioning every single life choice that led me to this moment. By the time 20 minutes hit, I had mentally written my resignation letter. 30 minutes. 30 full minutes before I could finally move, stumble out of that stall, and get the lights back on. I walked back to my desk like nothing happened. Nobody knew. Nobody asked. And I have never looked at a bathroom since or the same way since. Has a completely random thing ever ruined your entire day?